Before we go into Parliament reports, a survey that ranks Singapore as the costliest city in the world has been making its rounds on social media here.
Yes, the latest worldwide cost of living survey by the Economist Intelligence Unit, or EIU, saw Singapore jump 5 notches from its previous ranking to overtake Tokyo at the top of the list. The survey aims to give an indication of the relative differences in the cost of living in global cities for expatriates or business travelers.
Now, the EIU typically uses a diverse basket of goods drawn up to reflect the lifestyles of expatriates. This can include international school fees, the best seats at the theatre, fine dining at top restaurants and luxury items.
Right, now this particular survey also doesn't take public housing into account. Here's Yvonne Chan with the details.
10 years ago, Singapore was number 18 on the list, but a strong currency and rising price inflation means Singapore has been climbing up the ranks. And in the latest worldwide cost of living survey by the EIU, Singapore climbed 5 spots, beating the likes of Paris, Oslo, Zurich, Sydney, as well as Tokyo to take the top spot. Now, the Japanese capital slipped from 1st to 6th place as the yen continued to weaken. The EIU report compares the prices of products and services such as food, clothing, transport, as well as domestic help among 140 cities, with New York City as the base. Now, according to the survey, Singapore's curbs on car ownership, which include a quota system as well as high taxes, make it the most expensive city to run a car in. Now, case in point, a brand new Toyota Corolla Altis, for example, could cost as much as $110,000 in Singapore, but just $35,000 in Malaysia. And overall transport costs in Singapore are almost 3 times higher than those in New York. But the survey does not include public transport, which is most commonly used by Singaporeans. Meanwhile, utilities. Now, the lack of natural resources and energy supplies means Singapore is the 3rd most expensive city for utility costs. And what about your clothing? Well, the survey also shows that Singapore is the priciest place in the world to buy your clothes, as shopping malls along the prime Orchard Road shopping belt import luxury European brands. And what about housing then? Well, Singapore, smaller in size than New York City, has seen its home prices jump to record highs in recent years amidst rising wealth as well as an influx of foreigners. The survey again, though, does not include public housing data. It should also be noted that the survey is aimed at helping companies as well as HR managers calculate allowances for executives or expats being sent overseas. This means that spending patterns may differ from locals. And so while cars and utilities are expensive, public transport and hawker food in Singapore are cheaper than most developed cities. And latest data also show that consumer prices in Singapore rose at their slowest pace in 4 years in January, rising by just 1.4% compared to a year ago.
Earlier, we spoke with an analyst at the Economist Intelligence Unit, and he explained how the strong Singapore dollar was a factor in our ranking.
If you look at the last 5 years, the Singapore dollar 40% appreciation against the US dollar, sort of around about, and that's led to this rise in part. So 5 years ago in the survey, Singapore was 15th, and now it's number 1, and part of that's due to currency appreciation. The other factor is sort of solid price inflation. I mean, Singapore's had more price inflation than you get in Japan, for example. But the currency depreciation in Japan is what has sort of led to the slide with Tokyo and Osaka.